Good idea.
recording. And then Ari, I think I'll just turn it straight over to you now. Christy, acknowledge in our peak to peak, obviously, you know that she's read and reviewed the document, but I think Christy, you had some of your own feedback, or what would you
Yeah,
like to share?
I sent that day my own feedback on the feedback form.
Perfect.
Uh-huh.
I got it.
So in my my personal feedback isn't related to the Housing and Human Services
Oh,
stuff. I mean, professionally, if I had something to say, housing, I'd offer it for Housing and Human Services. But my personal is more like, oh God, please don't let people live in RVs.
yeah. Well, what do you wanna throw at me though, Christy? Where are we at?
Well, I mean, I guess I just wanted to, I mean, I think it's super exciting. I love, love, love the idea of a family resource center in the mountains. I know they have one in kind of like the Conifer Evergreen area that has a lot of services and resources. And I think that is really exciting. And I guess it's like, how can I help? What do we need to do? Like, because it's all, you know, the
Yeah.
goals and objectives. And so it's like the action steps, the funding, you know, there just are so many pieces that maybe don't fit into this.
Right.
But just curious what your thoughts are and your team's thoughts are about the reality, I guess, of implementing some pretty lofty goals.
Off the bat, just looking at the way you just said that, presented it, I agree. There has been, and I'm going to tell you what I agree to. There's been this thing of where we have to really envision big, but narrow it to a point of knowing what's realistic and what's not. What can you get done in the next 10 years? What can you actually achieve? How long does it take to get services like this up in the mountains? You know, I've been up here like what, a year and a half? And I'm still having new people find me. And that's taking a year and a half. But when it comes to things like you or Colleen Sinclair, you know, I like the idea also of kind of like how the community center is kind of the FRC in a way right now, but it's kind of rented space and not actual building for all of that. It's a little too spread out and too hard to find people, right? Myself included. Like I don't work there at
Well,
the
it's not strategic. It's just kind of hodgepodge.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. And you know, I think the whole envision is we want it for human services, and health as well, but we want it as a health building, which I think with the new motion of Clinica is going to be really great. And that kind of was a really beautiful surprise to me. That if you ask, you shall receive, right? And then knowing the people that are doing it, like Claudia, being behind it, hearing people doing it, is like great. So it's been this really refreshing thing of like once Tom, Atasha, myself, and then the help with Karen as well as Miranda went through this, it was even better than I thought. Because while it might be some people think of we're rewriting the wheel, we're not. I think a big problem with communication within Netherland as well as the mountain area is everybody wants to help, kind of has the same ideas, but not everybody talks to everybody. So everybody becomes a silo, right? Of these subcommittees of I'm going to do this, that, and the other. But then somebody's going to be like, oh, wait, those people actually exist right now. Maybe you should talk to them, which is what we have gotten feedback on for people being like, you should check the peak to peak human services. I'm like, I get it. I'm on it. Don't worry.
Like,
there.
Yeah,
I'm there. I'm well aware. So what I liked is that with bringing in new humans in this light, such as Atasha and Tom specifically, is it's more of that reassurance we're all seeing the same thing and preaching to the choir where everyone's on board.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So everyone's kind of from different kind of walks of life, but it's been the same thing. Yeah. I mean, that's reassuring.
Yeah, it is. It is. And then I think the only thing that I've noticed that where we're all preaching to ourselves is that problem. We're all preaching to ourselves. Now, in order to be able to stop doing all these small subcommittees and really kick this vision in gear, the thing is looking at how many people that aren't within these circles just don't know about us. The people that don't need the financial help right now, the people that don't know about the clothing closet and drive all the way down to Boulder, right? So I think there is this thing of educating what we already have to the general public of peak to peak that
Mhm.
we're really lacking on, such as the human services meeting we had a week ago saying, listen, we're not getting communication across, right? But it's here. So if you don't have people coming to you, you can't serve them. Can't serve them and help them out because they don't know it's here. You're hurting yourself, right? But that's what I've seen within this as a pattern and as a trend doing health, human, and social services for Envision. That's what I've been seeing.
So do you see, like, when we're talking, okay, so we're educating people, we're doing outreach, we're
Mhm.
um I think maybe providing a more robust support system with maybe what we currently have.
Yeah,
Um, in terms of like spearheading an effort for a family resource center, a building, like who do you see leading that effort?
great question.
Um, and then the other comment I had, I like have this big family circled in my notebook. What I
Okay.
noticed throughout, and I don't know if it's necessarily in this document, but a lot of the documents are like seniors, people with disabilities, vulnerable populations, and I would encourage us to like look at families, add families to this because um
Hmm.
obviously an essential part of any community, right? Like and I don't know
And
if
we
it was a
noticed that.
housing one or something,
We noticed
but
that.
I've
If you
that
look at the
my
bottom,
yeah.
so I'm sorry, but I just want you to know that we've noticed that. And if you go under, I
I
think it's
think yeah.
services with education, there's that little sentence there. And the issue was we heard when Stephen Lefevre came into our one of our meetings, he said, you know, I went to the one with education. There was nothing about our schools. Nothing. And I was, and all of us were, and I don't care who I'm throwing
I
under the bus
keep
right now.
saying that.
I'm not
Who
throwing
is
anybody.
saying
Karen,
that?
girl, I got you. I got you, girl.
It
I got you every day, all
depends
day.
who's sitting at the table, I guess, right? I'm gonna have to reread that education one. I am
Oh,
going to the charrette
girl.
tomorrow, the in-person one, because I just feel like I have lots to say.
So Christy, when we
Yeah,
heard that, it was Katrina Harms came in and Stephen Lefevre came in, and I went, great,
yeah.
two really good humans. They know exactly what's going on, and they did. And like I said, everybody aligned with everybody. When he said the education didn't even include the schools, I don't care who I'm throwing under the bus. Something's wrong, right?
Well, there's
Something
a disconnect.
wrong.
Like, who is sitting at the table?
Uh, yeah, that's a great
Well,
question.
they were really looking at education as it tied to arts and culture, which is why I think maybe it was too big of a group.
I
Arts,
don't.
culture, and education.
I
It was
see what
almost,
you're saying.
it was almost like too much because they kept tying it back to like if we're going to study Native Americans and Indigenous people, let's make sure we have the schools involved. If we're going to have trails that are easy to find and good signage, let's make sure there's good trails to schools. So I think they just kind of
Yeah,
got in that mindset,
there was a
and
bias.
that's why. And I actually brought it up in the very first meeting,
Good.
about the schools. And I think it was just it wasn't parents, not people who are active in the schools, they were just people who that wasn't their world. So
So
it
Yeah.
was
that's
unfortunate.
called having a bias. That's a bias because you know what I also said, not to be too off
I
topic of
agree.
but that's called a bias and it's not allowed under what I think, if I can be so pretentious, because I'm a part of this town and I want to be all inclusive. If you ask me like Stephen did, put families and schools in this for human and services, schools and families in high school here because I couldn't get in over here, yeah, we're going to include you. We're not going to discount anybody because someone else didn't think to include them in a subcommittee because it is important, right? And then when you look at that, there was this trickle effect of if you don't have schools, you don't get kids. If you don't get kids, you don't get families. You don't get families, you don't really get a really good economy going, right?
Well, yeah.
You just can't sustain that. There's nothing to keep it running. So that was another issue. I also personally wanted to be inclusive a lot in this, which you're seeing, you know, individuals of like
Yeah.
aging population, disability, because another thing I also have realized with a lot of other ones that are more in the social aspect like this, for example, the bias again for education, arts and culture, they wanted to do things specifically for indigenous tribes and making sure that people within that had rights and availability and accessibility to be able to have like ceremonies for that. And I'm like, that's amazing. But nowhere did I see people of color, Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ plus, any of those. This is called a bias. And I don't think that's correct. So
Yeah, I appreciate your perspective on
yeah, yeah, absolutely. When you mean everybody, you mean everybody, right? That's where you draw the line. You know, moose is included that got in your backyard. You include everybody.
Ari, I just saw that Annette came on, and I don't know if
that.
you guys, do you guys all know each other? No
Yeah,
need, no need to introduce. Okay, great. All right,
flat out
thanks. That's all.
yeah. So yeah, this is where we're at, Christy. And I think when we keep flushing these things out, we're gonna keep including. So keep bringing that to the table because that's an okay addition, right? You're not throwing something out of left field at us that doesn't belong in here. It's in the scope, and that's why we had you guys and want you guys here, just like Stephen was and Katrina and you know Jeanette at another online charrettes last week to give us those bits of scopes that I know you guys know and are in, but that maybe we just missed because of time restraint or feeling pressure. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to who's sitting at the table. So it's
Yeah.
I would agree with you heavily.
yeah.
There's no ifs, and, or buts about it. So, hi, and if I can
Hi,
just get
Annette.
input real quick. Hi, lady. How are you today?
I'm good. Good.
Good, good, good. Christy and I were all just, you know, we were all going through this and seeing if you guys had any comments or concerns. Christy, do you mind if I hop over to Annette and just see if she has anything real
Oh
quick?
God, no. Go right ahead.
Sweet, awesome.
Okay. So the only thing I wanted to say is kind of a correction. In the little bit where they actually mention the food pantry and the clothing closet, they
Yeah,
call it the winter clothing closet. And you should probably take the word winter out.
you got it. Winter is out, clothing closet's in. Because
Just
you're
a clothing
down.
closet.
Yeah,
Um,
winter closet. Okay.
Yeah, I think that came from when people didn't want to enable travelers during the summer with clothing.
Got you.
Um,
Yeah, that's no problem.
Yeah. I'm a little confused by how these are written because you have goals and objectives and you don't separate the goals from the objectives. That's just a comment about everything. Usually
Okay.
there's a main broad goal and then you have objectives and then strategies under the objectives. So
I would love your insight. If you want to just drop some hot knowledge and truth on me right now, I would be more than happy to take it.
So our goal is to provide residents with accessible, affordable healthcare and human services, right?
Correct.
And the objective would be, I think, what's listed here, as opposed to the goal. But anyway, I also noticed that mental health care is not called out.
Called out in what way? That's interesting. to
Well,
me.
you say healthcare, but
Okay.
I think a lot of people don't put mental health care in with healthcare. They think medical health care.
I would agree. Okay.
So
You do have
You called
psychological
out like
services.
anger management and stress management.
yeah, but that's not what we
Not
need
exactly,
specifically.
exactly. Mm-hmm.
As
Yeah,
mental
it's
health
more
care.
about access to like things that are happening now for COVID, where mental health partners are coming up and they're here twice a week and that kind of thing. That doesn't have to just be these substance abuse behavioral problems, right?
Mhm.
It's just having availability for people to check in. There's a lot of families that have problems with how do I integrate with the school system, you know,
Okay.
with a kid that's not typical. You know, so it doesn't just have to be these big adult problems that we've highlighted here.
I am writing that down as we speak.
Yeah.
Or even just disability services, you know, how do you manage all of that? That's a mental health kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah. No, I got you. And that makes perfect sense. I know we have left examples and a few maybe beforehand agencies. So it's in our scope and brain, but if you're reading this blank without doing the work, I can completely see how that can get lost in translation or left out. So thank you.
Right. And I just, some of the wording kind of repeats itself. Um, so when you say ensure agencies and organizations accept Medicaid, Medicare, and have affordable sliding scale,
Mm-hmm.
um, this is not a repeat, but in my experience, it's also hard to find an in-network provider. And when you only have one in the area and they don't have your network, that's
Yeah.
really difficult. So
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
accessible healthcare could mean, normal providers, not just these public providers.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I'm so sorry. Somebody just texted me. It's Atashna. She's asking for the link right now. I texted her
That's
asking.
fine.
Could somebody send her that, please?
Yeah, I can email it to her.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it greatly. Yeah, I understand. No, for even family reasons, my father worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield for 37 years. I get you. Uh,
Yeah. Or
having
like in my daughter's case, they require her to keep the employer provided insurance that her father has through his work and Medicaid.
sure.
So she has to find somebody who does both of those, or she can't go to them.
So within this
Um,
10-year scope, Annette, would you think that it would be a good idea to maybe have somebody within this health building, this health idea of someone in the mountains to be able to help with insurance providers, maybe enrollment, something of that sort?
I don't know that we need someone in particular like that, because when they start working with Imagine or um, CCA or whatever the
I mean,
other
anybody.
waiver
Anybody.
person is, they should.
I'm talking.
The short answer is yes, but I don't know that we need to solicit somebody who's just sitting around only going to answer insurance questions. I think anybody
Sure.
who's in any advocacy group could direct them to the people they need to do.
Fair as
Like
well.
you can.
Sure that for every individual within the peak to peak that you're saying, you brought up a good point. How do you get insurance if you're not insured, right? How do you reach that without having to go down the mountain? This is another 10-year plan thing, right? So we want to keep up here, set up here. So I would be okay even saying, listen, we're going to have people from Clinica. Can you get an insurance provider to be able to come and do open enrollments 2-3 times a year? And
Well,
then maybe
Boulder County does provide that. They have their
Yeah.
open enrollment specialists because
people
it's
use
very
it.
specialized. But I think
Do
what
people
Annette
use
is
it?
saying is just like I have Kaiser. I'm not going to use a provider. So if
Right.
Annette has Medicaid, that's great. But if her daughter has to stay on her husband's plan and they have to go to in-network, how do we entice providers to serve the mountains and be
Great question.
accessible to the mountains?
Great question.
Yeah,
I love
that's one piece of it. And then the other piece of it is like we're not having the Thursday providers up anymore. All the access to
it.
all the programs that the county offers, we kind of aren't doing that anymore. But when that happens, people get plugged into the right holes when they come in and ask for help. It's just
Sometimes,
that
sometimes.
like, yeah. So I don't think we need to get another person in, Ari.
Okay.
Just when everybody starts coming back again, I think it'll work out. But if we can get Clinica to come up, or even if, maybe Camarada is going to retire someday and we need to have someone replace him, hopefully a couple doctors with some nurse practitioners,
So can I interject just quickly because I'm on the
Please.
Clinica steering committee
Do
for
it.
bringing the clinic up to the mountains.
Please do.
So Annette and Atashna, right now, Clinica, there is a steering committee with the leadership of Clinica and some community leaders in kind of Boulder County and Gilpin County. And we are kind of exploring the possibility of bringing Clinica to the mountains. And it's very real. And they have a grant. And you know, right now we're just looking at feasibility, but
Mhm.
that's something that is definitely in the works. And clinic, as you know, is a community health center. So they have case managers, they have an array of services. So that is really, really exciting. And
Definitely.
really will start to address some of the needs you're talking about, but like just healthcare needs, human services needs as well. And then the other piece of that, of course, is, you know, if Clinicum comes up, will Boulder County commit to having a tech up here to work with mountain residents on accessing benefits and things like that? So yeah.
I would like to have an
Yeah,
actual office. I mean, I have my car, but that's been my office. This sounds nice. I want a good office chair for once, you know what I mean?
well, it
My mind
says
goes.
up, it says in Human Services, establish a facility and network in
Yeah.
the goals and objectives right here. And I would stress facility.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
I
Real
mean,
one of my questions, if that's okay. Just this isn't even so much about the document as it is going to be building on this vision in the future, having a little bit of foresight for this.
mhm.
What would you believe to help within the next 10 years get the word out to the major just the public, the major public of Netherland, Greater Netherland, peak to peak, all of that. What would you say on how to get more um, publicity and marketing, advertisement, something to let people know we're already here and we're all thinking the same things? Is there
You
any
mean the 2030 Envision thing?
not just yeah 20, but also what we already have to build off of with health and human services. So what all the services you provide, Annette, and myself and Christy and everybody, how have you been doing that thus far, and what would you like to see improved when making this more of an advertisement for the general public?
I think a presence at the farmer's market
Okay.
to let people know the services that are available and how to access them. Kind of like
Wonderful.
a where to get help guide person,
Sure.
because then the people who aren't in dire need of the services are aware that they're there. Because
Sure.
the people that come to the closet and the pantry and get directed to you and Christy, you
Mhm.
know, are cool, but we still have people that don't even know we have a food pantry or a clothing
That's an
closet
issue.
or that the
That's an
town
issue.
doesn't run it, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
It's a huge issue.
I don't
So if
want
you're
anyone
talking
else to
about,
know about me.
You really
we
are
don't, I'm not
a good
talking
mountain
about the
person.
specific
I'm only
providers,
joking, but I'm
right?
so busy.
You're not kidding.
Yeah. But, or just, I mean, the two working entities have been the Peak to Peak Alliance, the
Yeah.
food pantry, and then all of the people that come together around all the issues, right?
Hey,
And if
Colleen,
you're not part
myself.
of,
Yeah.
if you're not
I
part of
want
one of those groups, you don't know what's happening.
Again,
well,
an
and
issue.
I wonder if there is a place in this document that like the Peak to Peak Housing and Human Services Alliance, like kind of leveraging that the relationships they already have. I
Mhm.
mean, right now I kind of think the Peak to Peak is not doing anything, so it's frustrating, um but it's like could that be a more active group do what you're talking about that we're all
And I
talking
would love
about,
it.
right?
And I would love it. I would love that collaboration because I already see, like I said, we have been overlapping. We
Yeah.
Peter's in the background. Hi, Peter. That's Peter, the town admin. He's there. They're together.
Wait, he's at your house?
He's my boyfriend. I moved.
Uh-oh,
You're just
conflict of
I'm
interest here.
you're
Yeah,
just
there you go.
hanging out with the
Yeah.
No,
Hi Natasha.
it's gonna make his job easier.
Yeah, honestly, he's attending. He's just attending passively. It's the same thing.
Ow.
Notes instead.
Listening.
I know. Yeah, you know. Um,
Well,
yeah.
unless you're willing to name
Ow.
the
Stop it.
alliance in this next sentence, maintaining
Stop
and
it. Stop
sustaining
it.
collaborative network of nonprofit and governmental services. Sorry, I'll have to mute.
Ouch. Stop it.
Um Yeah, I don't know if we name it. I just think they're a resource that we could
I
more
want it together.
that
I
could be
do.
more effective in enhancing services.
It's not even an enhancement, it's a working collaboration where you can have
Like,
more
yeah,
than one part moving, right?
it's like,
I
yeah,
think
it's not enhancing,
it's a
it's like,
silo. It's a
yeah.
silo. We're not all connecting and moving at the same place, and we're not being collective, right? So if we do that, be a
Yeah,
little
I mean,
better.
I think
Can
we're
I
all,
interject some
yes,
things? Okay. Um, First of all, I think one of the most effective ways to reach a broader audience in this area that is fragmented is just the old-fashioned flyer in at the post office for Netherland and for Ward. Yeah, just an old-fashioned flyer. In regards to the peak-to-peak so-called housing and human services alliance, they, in my opinion, they are a consortium of nonprofits and county agencies, and they are not an advocacy group. Advocacy in terms of being proactive. They seem to be on their own, and they do, I'm not sure what the word silo terminology means, but I can only infer that they're kind of on their own. They decide what they're going to do and
Right.
how they're going to do it and when they're going to do it.
Correct.
Whereas there are agencies, you know, and they don't consult anyone else. I am not affiliated. I am an unaffiliated housing activist, primarily for seniors. I am not on any, I'm not affiliated with any agency or organization or nonprofit. Yet for 40 years, I've been highly active in this community. Yet I do
So
not.
we're wondering how to get those two to be that active. That's the conversation.
yeah,
It's
what do
like
we do to help? What do we do to
we are
shift that,
doing.
Atashna? Sorry,
We
Ari.
appreciate what you're doing. It's okay.
Yeah.
We appreciate what you're doing in your efforts, Natasha. We hear you. We see you. You're very vibrant in what you do in your efforts, and we all respect and know that as a community up here in Netherland. And it's absolutely vital and needed. I have on more than one account said, you know, where the heck has been the senior living that nobody planned about for the past 20, 30, 40 years, right? I'm with you on
Well,
that.
it was on the table, and then it was taken over.
Right.
You know,
But what I'm
Tungsten
saying,
Village was hijacked.
but to bring it
And it was
back,
hijacked by the so-called Housing and Human Services Alliance.
so Atasha,
People like myself and the ad hoc housing subcommittee were not consulted.
So, Atasha, that's what we're talking about in the conversation of how to be proactive in the now and to look towards the future within the next 10, 20, 30 years of making it happen. And that's the conversation.
Okay, so the conversation is how to be inclusive, because it's not inclusive. How to be inclusive, and that's the conversation.
Well,
How to
I
be
would like
inclusive.
it
Go
to
ahead,
just
Christy.
speak to the Peak to Peak Housing and Human Service Alliance. Like, I would like that organization to shift
Mm-hmm.
into, you know, not just focusing on meeting needs but also advocacy. I'm with you, Akash, 100% of like they have leverage, they have some credibility with agencies down below that have some resources. And so, yeah, I think that,
So,
but I don't
I
know that that has to be in this Envision 2030.
But
but
in order to make that happen, you're going to have some funds to pay one or two people to do that, because right now there's only one paid person on that whole staff,
agreed for
on
8
the
hours,
whole
But-
group.
8 hours a week.
You know?
I
Yep.
mean, I think you need effective, strong leadership, paid or not paid.
So I'm gonna say here,
Yes.
Right.
this statement, guys. Listen here. Needing in 2030, through 2030, wanting to see advocacy within both groups collectively, and that can be
Yeah.
for whatever. That can be broad. That can be
Right.
for housing. That could be for food security.
Advocate for community needs at,
So,
Yes.
so,
related
thi-
to housing and human services.
but this is
Okay.
a document that the town is generating, right?
No, it's a
Is.
document that the
20
community is generating.
Someone
but
take it
this
over.
is-
I'm writing.
And
Isn't
that, just so
this-
you know, the town is facilitating the conversation. And the hope, the intention is that these visions, the Envision 2030 and then the separate vision statements for each one of these subcategories is driven by the public.
Mhm.
I get that,
And
but
also, I do, with that,
who's
that
going to make it
means,
happen is what
well,
I'm
that's,
saying.
that's what I was
That's
just gonna
my
say in
question
that.
too.
Yeah.
Is that it can't be just a go-to that the town's going to take care of everything. The
Yeah.
town
Yeah.
can definitely be a player, just like we are with the health and human services that are housed at the community center, where we give a lot of free space and we give support as we can. We're not those entities, but we can certainly
Mhm.
support, and that's a great role for the town. And Christy, you had asked the question at the very beginning. You said, well, who's going to make, this facility happen? And I was going to say something, but the conversation kind of went another way at that point. I really think any conversation like that, you do want the town at the table too. Because,
Yes.
the town has a
Definitely.
staff who's very good at getting millions of dollars worth of grants. We've proven that in just a short time I've been here, over $3 million of grants we've gotten for infrastructure improvements. And so
Cool.
you want to work with the town as a
Yes.
resource, as a
Yes.
partner. But you're right, really, whether it's peak to peak HHS or whatever, there has to be a strong community leader out there, not only advocating and lobbying, but also able to make actions, make things go
Yes.
forward. So I mean, I think that's what I'm hearing. I certainly experienced that. I'm on a lot of these committees. You guys see me
Yes.
at these meetings. But anyways, that's just my 2 cents worth
Thank
about
you,
how does
Karen.
the town fit in all of this.
No, that's
One
great.
of the difficulties I see in terms of the Peak to Peak Human Services Alliance is that many of the agencies or organizations are part of the county. So, for instance, Aging Services is a county. BOCO Housing Authority is county. So I kind of imagine that that their hands would be tied in terms of advocacy.
Sure. But that doesn't mean we can't keep them in the loop. You always want a
Oh
friend.
no, definitely keep them in the loop. But I'm concerned about how they could really be a force to be reckoned with for us in terms of advocacy, since there would be, I would imagine with the Conti, there's probably all kinds of clauses where they cannot advocate
Well,
or
if
get
I can,
involved.
if I can be a little unconservative about it, a little bit of charm goes a long way sometimes. A little bit
I
of
would
friend,
say those relationships are
a
important.
little bit of networking, a little bit of love, a little bit of extra time and effort can go a long way when you have a friend. In fact, it got me this job.
Okay,
So,
well, that counts me out.
it's okay, girl. I'll turn on the charm here. I'll turn it on.
I'll just say
Attachment, you
for,
identified yourself as an activist. Activists don't necessarily fit in the
Yeah,
box.
yeah. We know,
can I say
our
one
role
one thing about that as far as advocacy goes? So if you are a government employee, your power really is in persuasion. So it's pulling people together and then being able to persuade. And I think that's where you're going, Ari, with charm.
Yes, I am.
But I use the word persuasion
Charm is a
because
cute way. Charm is a cute way of
that's
putting it.
that's really where your power comes in. So if we can persuade, at certain levels, Boulder County to get on board with a vision we have, then they would then in turn persuade, whether it's the commissioners or whoever. So it's actually very powerful. It's just a little different than lobbying or advocating.
Yes.
So is there a class we can all take for that?
Yeah, it's called CARD. It's called Karen 101. Listen to
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like, how do you win over and influence people?
There you go. Karen 101. I'll take it in this spring and fall. I will take that. I hope I
So
pass the
She's
flying colors
she's
on
gonna
enough.
be done, and then she'll be a consultant and teach us
I
all
love
how
it.
to.
Yes.
You know what? Karen doesn't have to make a class. I will bother her of my own free time. Karen, I hope you're okay with that.
Anytime.
So
Good.
Ari, can I ask
Yeah.
you another question?
Anytime, go for it.
I see group childcare, but not just childcare in general. Was there a reason to distinguish only group childcare?
Atashna, you're up. This is you, girl.
No,
Shine.
no.
Where
I
is
think so.
where is that?
On the bottom there. Do you see
It's in right after the brackets of medical and non-medical for home care services in that big long
Okay.
paragraph in human services.
You know, it's a great
Okay.
question.
Okay,
It's a
first
great
of
question.
all, let me ask Annette,
Yes.
we haven't been introduced. Who
Oh,
are
I'm
you?
sorry.
Oh,
I'm
whoops.
Annette, and I run the clothing closet for the food pantry.
Oh, okay, okay, thank you for that. Okay, so you're not a county person,
I
okay?
assumed you guys
I do
knew
live
each
in
other.
unincorporated county. I do, but I'm not with an agency,
Okay,
I'm not
You
paid
never saw
either.
each other at BNF?
Okay,
You never bumped
good.
into each other at Falco's Coffee? Really? Not once?
They
Not
might
the
have.
last
They just
year.
didn't know each other.
So
Ah.
in terms of group childcare, some anonymous person wrote that in without permission. So
Okay.
I would just say childcare.
I would say childcare because a lot of it happens not in a group setting.
That's right.
And, there's a
Not
whole
limited.
conversation about accessing childcare now in
Love
the
it.
state. So
I love it.
Okay.
Okay.
It
Well, in
also,
childcare, there's no
it also
infant care.
creates jobs because many childcare, much of the childcare, especially in rural mountain areas, is done by women in their homes.
mhm.
True.
So it's best to not limit that to a
Yeah.
facility.
100%. 100%. That is
Yeah.
complete.
The
I'm
challenge,
so
of
glad
course,
you
is
guys are
that if it's in someone's home, you have to pay for it, and if it's in a facility, you can get CCAP.
Oh,
Well,
really?
but you're not limiting yourself. You're saying all childcare.
Yeah,
So
childcare. Group
Yeah.
childcare, I would agree. Group just doesn't make sense.
right.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is, do we need to include schools and education in human services? Because it's already mentioned in other places in the goals.
I would say not. Some of the problem there is then we start, you know, BVSD is a whole nother dimension. And
Yeah.
while
It's
we
already
can,
mentioned.
It
Yeah.
has flourishing schools and education.
We all want it, but it may not be appropriate here. I mean, a human service for mental health or disability resources that the children need is part of the education system. Plugging them into Ari or Christy for their family
Well-
is a human service, but not ensuring academic standards.
I know that like the middle senior high school has a mental health partners therapist on site.
Yay!
wow, nice.
And I
Woohoo!
think
You'll see.
so.
That's
I
wonderful.
think schools and human services actually do have some relationship.
I agree.
But then define it better than flourishing schools, and that's too general.
Yes,
I
You
think
mean
that's just
extend-
needs to be specific. And it also needs to be within the boundaries of our capability.
Agreed. Agreed.
I mean, is it just like working collaboratively with the
Miranda, can you
local
highlight
area
this? I'm having-
schools to support human services? I mean, or to
Miranda,
support.
would you mind
you-
highlighting that in the red? The red is very helpful.
What
You've
about
ins-
something
you've
I
used
know
like,
the word
Miranda.
ensure
something
before.
like- collaborative relationships with local human services agencies.
One more time,
To
Natasha.
support families or like, and
Yeah,
collaborating
collaborative
with,
services with local human services groups, programs, agencies, whatever word you want to
That's
use.
what you said
yeah,
up above, at maintaining and sustaining collaborative network of nonprofit and governmental human service providers.
Friends, if we can
You-
type these in chat, this would be amazingly helpful for me. Just for
we'll
like,
put them in the chat.
yeah, put them in the chat so I can write them down and then give them to Miranda because
Is that the, that's not the share. Sorry, I
The
haven't used
chat
this
is-
before.
right next to participant chat with the little bubble. If you click,
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
so many problems with that.
You know,
I have reactions, but I don't see a chat.
no? What
If
about
you,
see-
I mean, I'm tracking changes, so if you just keep this conversation going, I'll try to
Okay,
track
cool.
them.
Oh, okay.
Miranda?
So if we could focus in on a more concise thing of how we want human services to interact with the schools, I think that would just be better than the sentence that's there now.
Please,
I
Yeah.
put foster relationships with schools to support human services needs in the mountains.
There you go.
Ooh,
I'm
Chrissy.
writing it down in the chat because writing actually helps
Oh,
me.
I see.
Ooh, I like all of that. Guys, thank you so much. This is kind of exactly what we needed.
See, local schools, foster relationships with local schools.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we're not going down to Fairview.
But here's the thing, some families are going down to Fairview
Yeah.
and
Oh,
they
that's
live
true,
in the
though.
mountains and they still
We're
have
going
human
to
services needs.
Fairview?
Yeah.
That's true. That's true, because
Hey.
we have open
Oh,
enrollment.
And you do have some kids in this area going to Gilpin, so I don't know about local, just FYI.
Gilpin's
I mean, I
local.
think Gilpin is local, but
Well,
Yeah,
that's
Gilpin's
what you
local.
may think, and that's what Natasha may think, but somebody else may see that
Yeah.
differently.
Because
Yeah,
Well, then
different
instead of saying
district, yeah.
local, say peak to peak schools.
no, I
Peak
think
to
we should
peak
just say
area schools.
schools.
Yeah.
I think we
that's-
should say schools because, like I said, I think kids go down below to go to school,
Mhm.
right?
Problem.
And then there's
Right.
Gold Hill, there's James. Well, this is Netherlands Peak. Yeah. Okay. Nothing.
They go all over
But,
the place. It's true.
Yeah.
Okay, and then transportation is mentioned in just about every section of this document. So how do we want transportation to relate to human services? I just think that should be
Interesting you should ask.
just for appointments, medical and non-medical,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or just say, reiterating once again, affordable, no, sorry.
Well, no, for real. No, you're onto something there because we also
Not just affordable, but options, because if there's only VIA providing and the bus has already left, then
And
how
that's
do you
okay.
get your transportation later in the day?
There's
exactly.
local shuttles. There's a local shuttle. I think it's in some other of the Envision.
Yeah,
It's mentioned, but
accessible.
instead of transportation, you say local shuttles.
Well,
Uh,
That's two
because
actions.
it's gonna be volunteer mountain driver programs and
Those don't work. They
families
haven't
and
worked in the
friends
past.
Medicaid paid
don't
in
be a
addition
naysayer. We're
to,
working on it. We're working
yeah.
on it. Don't give up, girl. Don't get burned out on me. I swear, we're getting.
I want
I mean,
I want
I'm
RTD.
singed.
I want
I'm
RTD to
singed.
do a flex ride route up here, just like they do in other network areas.
But I mean, that's not what we're putting in here, right? Because that's
No,
not,
No,
that's an
no, we
action
can't be-
step.
we can't
We
be
are
that
looking-
specific.
We are looking at the broad, what we
Yeah.
need for transportation within human services for people, whether that be a human service of someone needs to go meet a personal trainer for health over at Gilpin Rec Center, but they can't afford it. They're going to get that transportation. If you need someone
Yeah.
for OT or physical rehab, you can get transportation. But if you also are a single mother who's in Wonderview and her car broke down, someone's going to help you get groceries. This is what we're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying. So that
Because
is
well, this says for appointments. So do you want to
We can
take
do
that
that
out
too.
and just
No,
put
but
human
if you have to go
services
down the
needs?
mountain- No, vaccines. But if you needed a vaccine and your appointment is at 3 p.m., you
But
need
groceries.
So
groceries too.
medical, so affordable and accessible transportation is available for Those who
Just
need it.
medical and non-medical needs. You don't have to put
Medical and non-medical
appointments.
needs. Human
Yeah.
service.
Yeah.
If you need to go to Gilpin to pick up your kid for after school whatever from a game, you are entitled to that up here because that is for your better well-being. If you don't have a car but your children are trying to partake in a very normal lifestyle, I want to help you.
Which is very common, Ari. That's a great comment because I
got
think that does
you.
exclude
I got
kids.
you. I see.
Is that after school piece?
I'm not going to let you down. Not today, not ever.
Okay.
Netter than normal or peak to peak normal, because normal is defined differently by different people.
Humans? Yeah. We're crazy.
Does this
Speak for
need to be
yourself.
scrolled down? Because I feel like I'm not seeing everything.
The
that we're
housing
talking
isn't
about.
there. Yeah.
I'm not
The next
looking at it.
page.
But isn't housing a separate thing?
It's the
No,
next
this is
page
something
down.
different.
Yes,
This is
but
something different,
Housing
Christy.
is a different subcommittee.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought.
Yes. However, housing is also, it's a human services need. So it
Agreed.
needs to be addressed in the human services section of this document, this
Can we
subcommittee.
just say see housing? Part B?
No,
I think-
definitely
No,
not.
and that's a
So,
good idea.
I will say though, we don't want housing here. This is Miranda, because
Take it,
the
Miranda.
whole point is to not double up. And so I
No,
think, yes, it is a bit more of a C housing. And if you have housing feedback, I'd ask that you take the time to email that. And this, we just focus on what we have before us here. But we don't want duplications throughout the document. So the point at the end of this is that we'll kind of do a scrub and make sure that anywhere that there's overlap, we're aligning them better.
I feel that I feel that it's appropriate in human services. I'm also on the housing subcommittee, and it is not addressing, it's not addressing directly the human service need for housing. It's a general document. And there's
So
a,
riddle me this, Natasha. Is there a way, perhaps I could come over as well as people from, human services and health and one in this group to come to one of your meetings to make that collaboration?
I don't go to the meetings because there's four
Oh.
of us, there's me, and there's like the three other people, and I'm diametrically opposed
Oh,
to them. So I do not attend the meetings. Everything that I have suggested has been vetoed. And the very few things that I have suggested that they have accepted, they've changed the wording.
so I know that Tom and I are 1000% your buddies, and like we all think the same. We're on the same brainwave, and I love it.
Yeah.
But I would like to perhaps maybe go with you and back you up then within your housing community to maybe make those efforts a little smoother, because I see Miranda's point and mine. I believe this has to be very centered and very concise where people can understand that scope immediately. When it comes to housing, I think it's a no-brainer that housing is a basic need as well and should be within the housing committee. So I think this is something perhaps to be incorporated again, like I said, within housing. And I don't think you're wrong, but I don't think it should be right here, but within collaboration. They have to work together. That's my personal belief.
Okay. When is the next housing subcommittee meeting?
I don't know.
It's this
Miranda,
Friday. It's this Friday at 5:00.
Friday at 5:00.
Okay.
Tasha, I was just going to point out, this is Karen,
Yeah.
that, in the human services kind of big paragraph under the first bullet point, and it talks about all the different services, range of human services that should be available, including the food pantry, clothing closet. Then it says Family Resource Center. My experience of Family Resource Center is that's a place anybody could go to and maybe seek things like rental assistance and assistance with utility payments and such. Are you thinking that should be called out more because that is kind of a human service, or are you talking about making sure there's programs in place that are building and providing actual housing units.
Yes.
Okay.
Specifically senior housing.
Okay, that really
Specifically
does,
senior housing.
that really does belong in housing, although I understand your spillover when we talk about a family resource center and EFA and organizations like that, there is a way to get some support, for cost associated with housing. So I did just want to make that clear that that's being considered here.
Okay, I like
Talking about bricks and mortar, that's really
Yes.
housing. That's really housing.
Okay, so I have been an island unto myself in that housing subcommittee. Ari, I really appreciate what you've said, and
Yes, ma'am.
I would welcome you
Mm-hmm.
and Tom, whoever, to be a part of the next housing meeting and support me in my efforts for affordable housing.
I think
I have
would
a
be
very diverse background, but one of the things I remember from my youth and my education, my formal education, is that children and seniors, when it comes to social policies, governmental policies, seniors and children are always pitted against each other, vying for the little minute piece of the pie that is allotted.
so.
And that's what happened with Tungsten Village. I do not want to see that happen again with housing.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I think this is getting a little off track from our meeting. And I think that this is something I would love to research the housing committee of what they've done so far and where they're at. And I think it'd be great not only to advocate for you and stick up for you in your efforts, but also peak to peak human services, as you see here, these examples. So
Yes.
we could table housing just for a moment, and then maybe you and I and Tom can all talk about the next subcommittee we can meet housing committee at. Does that sound okay?
That sounds wonderful.
Wonderful. Awesome. Thank you
Thank you.
so much. Thank you, of course. Do you guys have any other comments or anything in the document you would suggest or want to change? Because these are golden and I want to keep hearing them.
I
Yeah,
do, but go ahead, Natasha.
Okay, I don't see it on the screen. Can you scroll it down?
These are all the goals for health, human, and social services.
Okay, so unless it was taken out, there was something in there about the communities support and encourage like family something or other. It was one of the last lines under human services. The
I
only
have that.
thing,
I have left that to you, Miss Natasha, because I know you're good at editing and writing. So it wasn't me.
well, no, it was in the documents I was looking at, and I am so terrible with these documents. It's given me a lot of stress.
You're doing fine.
The Google, I want to clarify the Google document.
It's there. It's right there.
Yeah, and Ari and Natasha, you have access to a Google Drive where there's all the feedback from all the sessions this month. This, what we're looking at, is what was sent to Annette and Christy. So the Google Doc may have suggested edits that don't match this exactly.
Understood.
Okay, yeah, it was the Google Doc.
Oh, yeah, no, I looked at what was on the
wanted
town
to
site.
change or take out.
We can always go over that and brush it up. Like,
Okay, yeah,
we can definitely get that done.
because these documents are just confounding me.
It's okay.
So the last line that's on the screen that I see does say peak to peak communities will support families with children and provide a safe, healthy, and thriving environment.
Okay, I don't see that, but I wanted to change it.
Oh.
My last line that I see is affordable and accessible transportation is available.
Do you have it on full screen?
Full screen.
The box in the upper right-hand corner?
Okay, yeah, okay, I just did, okay.
Okay.
So my suggestion with that last line, peak to peak communities will support families with children, will provide a safe, healthy, and thriving environment. Two issues with that. One is that very sentence is what encumbers this whole document. We want everybody to have a safe, healthy, and thriving environment.
I
So-
respectfully disagree.
So I would suggest either removing that or changing it to include seniors.
Nope. See, that's where I disagree with you respectfully. That line
Mhm.
there in favor of Stephen Lefevre, no pun intended, play on words, to happened. He came to one of our meetings and noticed that we, and I say we, as 2030 Envision, we have talked about frequently in the beginning that
Uh-huh.
there's nothing to enrich families and children and growing teenagers. I believe we do have senior efforts up in this document. So also people with disabilities, people's families and individuals. I think it is totally fine to leave this inclusion right here because there has been a lacking and a failure within the education and art subcommittee, which I'm comfortable saying. So I want to
Okay.
for Stephen Lefevre to honor him and also his efforts as well, if that's okay.
Well, and
Okay,
I
so
want to
what
second what
means
Ari
that
was saying.
there
Because
isn't the
Atash,
support?
Wait. We're both going at the same time. Christy, go for it.
Okay, go.
so Atash and I had mentioned, I think before you got on the meeting, that a lot of this document, it's like seniors, people with disabilities, vulnerable populations, and it doesn't mention families. So I feel like
Okay.
this
Okay.
is important because
Um,
as a parent with kids growing up in this community, I can tell you that there's nothing for them to do, that we have a very permissive attitude towards drugs and alcohol, which is not creating healthy environment for kids.
Mhm.
So I think that I agree with Ari, and because this doesn't exclude anyone, it
No.
just makes a
Includes.
point of
Yeah.
saying that families need to be considered
Yeah,
in
Yeah.
our
agreed.
environment.
And
Okay,
that's
so can it be more specific? Support in what ways?
Well, I
That's
was
what
thinking
go
that
into an
too,
executive.
but then that gets into the action
Nitty
steps.
gritty. That's an
So
action
this-
step.
This looks like a goal to me. It's not an objective or a strategy. It's a goal.
Okay.
It's too broad to be an objective.
Okay,
Because
so
we haven't
we're
said-
with all three of what you're saying.
After school activities, healthy, social engagement.
Social activities, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a goal for sure. And this
Enrichment, of
document
course.
isn't set up where it's clear what the goals and objectives are separate from each
Mm.
other.
Can
And then the
you-
strategies to meet those
Annette?
objectives.
Annette?
Hey,
So,
Miranda, it's pro-social activities.
Annette, I want to put you on the spot. Would you mind at some point, if you have time, helping us with this? Like just the way
sure.
like you know how to mentally do it. And I mentally can't see that. But if you don't have the time, I do not take offense and I fully understand.
So I do want to
No, I
clarify
can do
though
that.
where
You
we
can-
are in the
You can
process.
contact me outside of meeting.
Oh, Sorry,
Yeah, I'll
Annette,
get you.
I just want to clarify though that we're not at a place in which we're building those strategic pieces. We're really just
Right.
making broad statements. And so I think, as Ari said, it'd be great when we get into that. But I think keeping these, we really need to make sure that every committee is really keeping things relatively broad because we don't know where we want to go quite yet.
Okay.
Yeah. And I
What
would
about
love
after
Annette-
school community activities? After
That's-
school community activities.
I think
Well, we're
we
not
It
just
says
keep
after
it broad.
school.
I think we keep
Yeah.
it broad because
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
Annette
Like
didn't get
that's
to
what Maria
finish
just said.
saying. I'm gonna ask Annette to please finish saying what she was trying to say.
What I was trying to say about objectives and goals.
Mhm.
Yeah, you were talking about whether or not. Well, I guess between what Miranda's saying and what you are saying, there seems to be a little bit of a disconnect. So what Miranda is saying is that we need to keep everything general. And that what we're going to do is we're going to try to, when all of this feedback comes back, take it, distill it into more general statements. And Miranda, you're saying we won't really be talking about an action plan at this point, correct?
Correct.
I agree with all of that. I just think it
Mm.
could be a little bit better
formatted. So it's clear that these are really only goals with a few objectives and there's no strategy yet. There's no strategic points to meet the objectives yet. That's what after school activities and pro-social activities would be.
Will there be a
See?
time, Miranda and or Karen, to be able to approach that, what Annette's saying, where she can maybe guide us a bit?
So that actually is the next phase of Envision 2030. However, that comes with a caveat. There is a lot of discussion about how a full Envision 2030 action plan could conflict with the comprehensive plan. So when we bring this before the Board of Trustees on May 17th, that's going to be the ask of them is, do they want us to continue to move forward with an action plan and do the measurable goals and objectives, or switch gears to securing the funding for the comprehensive plan, because that's statutorily required. So if the comprehensive plan had the specific strategies, then we really have to adhere to that. Not saying that Envision doesn't hold the same weight, but the comprehensive plan is more of a driving document.
I wasn't advocating that we get into strategies right now. I took some time to read some town plans from other towns and just noticed that they were laid out a little bit visually better. And we do have a lot of repetition in our wording, which I know is going to get weeded out. That's my comment. Like, I wanted to tell you, Ari, if you could scroll up to the top a little bit again. Right. Okay, so it says provide a full spectrum of medical services to our community. And then we go to, so that's a goal, right? Here's the objective: provide access to medical care serving all peak-to-peak communities. So not only do we need to provide access, but we need to ensure that it's used, right?
I think you
What
have.
do you mean used?
Okay, so the goal is the first sentence, the objective is the bulleted point. But when you put goals and objectives in one line, then you're not sure which is which. That's my comment.
I want your wisdom, and I'm cool with that. Atashna, would you like to have Annette help us out a bit with this?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I'm okay and would love to have the vision that Annette has and see it, because it can only help us. Would you be open
Yes,
to possibly helping us in the future with this as well?
yes.
Cool,
Okay.
cool. So
Yeah,
Annette,
not a problem.
I don't know how to bring you in exactly. I don't know what I'm supposed to do to bring you in. I've never been a chairhead before, but I'd love to have you. What do I do to go about bringing Miss Annette to help us? Is there anything?
Annette, I'll send you the invite for their next meeting, which will be Monday, because next week everyone has the invites for their regular dates and times. And
So
then
it's
the point of that
Monday?
meeting is to take all the feedback received in April and integrate it, so that then town staff can work on kind of weeding out the duplications. But it's going to be the last chance for these committees to pull together their goals and objectives based on feedback.
Right.
And I would love to help, but Annette, if you really don't have the time or something of a conflict, I completely understand.
No, I think I have next Monday, fine. My only other comment is under human services. We have a way, we say we want to maintain and sustain a collaborative network, and we want to establish a facility in a network, but we're not saying that we're going to make a standard process that will be commonly used throughout the region, so everybody's funneled in the right way to the right resources. So I don't know how you want to word that, but there has to be some conscious intention that we're going to create a framework that's usable by everybody. So if someone comes to me, I know whether it's something simple like go get the where to get help guide and give it to the person, right? Or, I mean, I know if someone's a senior, they might need to talk to Colleen, but if there's somebody else just in the community or a town hall, they may not know all of the, like a flow chart of where it goes, right?
I was thinking that too. I'm like, what is something we can physically post on a board where people flow chart going to people they need?
Yeah.
But Christy doesn't want that.
Well, I don't want to depersonalize the process. And when you standardize something, then it not
okay. So wrong word to use, but the point is there's no intention about getting the service in the hands of the people that it needs to be in. It's just maintaining the network here.
Yeah.
That's
and
what
I
I'm
see
saying.
what you're saying. Okay, yeah. But it's like, what is the
yeah.
So how would you say and ensure that it's used, you
It's
know, that
like
it works
yeah,
for the clients? You know?
Ensure framework for services can be easily comprehended.
it's
Or
like
that the right people know
accessibility.
about it, you know, like if I
Yeah.
call town hall, will they, like, you call the community center and you say you want to donate items, right? This is just an
Yeah.
example I come across. Well, is that for Mountain Forum for Peace? Is it food or is it clothing? Is it go to
Okay.
the teens?
Ensure
Or is it,
framework services can be easily comprehended and usable
there you
for
go,
to peak
understood, usable, yeah.
residents for references for XYZ for somebody help me at
Or
the
to
end.
plug
It's
into
like
this network.
clear understanding of referral process. Like it's more of a referral
Yes,
process than a
yes,
standardized
yes.
framework.
Right. It's
So
not
we
like we have to
eliminate the
provide
word
it.
maintain and sustain. I like what Christy said, because this all does boil down to how do we make clear referrals, understandable referrals to people. So
And
They get-
the word
appropriate
maintain and sustain.
referrals, right?
Yeah.
It has to be the appropriate referral.
So maintain and sustain are really not good words to use. There needs to be something that addresses referrals.
I
I
like
But
like what Christy
also
said
like
earlier.
Well, no,
what
I think those two words are right, because if no one's if it's not the vision to keep it going, then it doesn't happen, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
have to create it, it has to be usable, and it has to get the people who need it have to have access to it.
well, and it's not only because I think we probably like I know, Chris knows, you know, Ari knows, Natasha knows, but does Kurt, who's answering the phone at the community center, know? So it's like
Right.
having it
Yeah.
be laid out so that it's accessible to
Communicated
more
at
than
least
just us.
through the town employees should know how to refer people to the
Yeah.
appropriate people, because they're going to get the questions, right? And this
Yeah.
is a
Most
town of
community
Nederland
center people.
document, so I don't know.
Yep. All volunteer groups in town that have a public presence, like town hall, the community center, they're desk volunteers. Everyone who answers the phone needs to be trained in how to do an appropriate
Right.
referral.
That's the
Train is one of
strategy. That's the strategy. We need the goal wording here.
It's like a
Yeah.
robust referral process. A robust referral process.
Create
I just love the
a
word robust, so we got to put it in here somewhere.
I like the
create
word
a
robust too.
yeah, you could say create a robust referral process that serves clients or something like
It
that.
serves
Residents.
vulnerable
Residents, there you go.
residents.
Residents, all encompassing. Yeah, you want to stick robust in there? You can do it 3-4 times, girl. That's all good.
I just love that word. That's all I gotta
You
say.
put a random robust in goals and objectives. Robust.
Doesn't even have to be vulnerable residents, because not everybody who needs a referral is vulnerable, right?
Right, because you're
Yeah.
talking about people who want to donate. So
Right.
We're talking about everybody. Again, inclusivity. We're talking about
There you go. There you go.
residents. I love everyone. That's how it goes.
I want the word aardvark in there.
All right, let's go to a vision statement.
We'll
The
put a little
aardvark
aardvark
vision
picture
statement.
up there.
Mm-hmm.
Who's that cat? Can I have that cat? Tasha,
He's my I'm now a senior household of 3.
boy.
A friend of mine died from COVID,
oh,
and nobody wants senior animals or senior people, so I fostered them, but everybody knew I was going to keep them.
We all knew.
aw.
This
Well,
is
you look
Gato.
like
He's like obnoxiously affectionate.
It seems
I
like
love it.
you're settling into your new cat mom role.
Yeah, I am. Sometimes their affection drives me crazy, though.
But you love it. Don't pretend like you don't. We all do. Yeah, I like that sentence. That's a good one. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Thank
So
you. That
helpful.
addresses my concern or my
This all
comment.
addresses all of my concerns. I love this. Anything else? Any other words of wisdom?
No?
God, are we going to be done 15 minutes early?
Wow, you guys, I just have to say, I'm so impressed by all of you. What a great
Yay!
conversation.
I didn't know there
Really
was such a
great
committee that was
conversation.
great where Atasha's in one where she won't talk to them. You know, we're doing pretty good. Look at all the conversations.
No, they hate me.
Well, I want to reread that housing one, Natasha, and I might reach out to you because I'm happy to add comments. I do not want to participate in that group either because I know who's on it, but
Somebody
um,
has to want to participate there, please. Somebody for the
so I mean,
people.
I respect those people, but they're not super open.
Like,
So I have just a question about the whole general process. If I go to a general charrette and have comments about other parts of this document, how do I know that those committee members are going to consider them and even include
text
them?
me. Text
So
me.
you have a couple options. So you can go online and fill out the form, and I just actually copy and paste them and do similar here. If there's track changes, the committee members will see it, or I just put it as just general feedback as a comment. If you go to the in-person charrette, all of the committee members take notes on Post-it notes, and then after the meeting's over, I collect those and add them to the document. So I do feel like you can rest assured that the information is getting into the right hands. And then again, next week, which you can always attend any of their sessions as just a kind of a viewer and watch them next week, how they incorporate that feedback into the final document.
Well,
Oh.
I mean, because we've had conversation about stuff and we've changed things, you know. So like if I threw out there, we need a Bugs Bunny coyote rabbit hole by the, you know, reservoir, that would be
goodness, do it.
silly and it wouldn't be included. But if it was a valid comment and then it didn't get included, I'm just curious, since this is
Great
a
question.
information gathering process, I mean, does everybody's
Yeah, I get
thoughts get included in there?
And that's going to be them putting it back onto the subcommittee. And so really that's kind of Karen and I's role as well, is to make sure that there's an understanding of the validity behind each of the comments and the importance of incorporating them and not just dismissing them. You know, we don't
Okay,
want the end of the day for Envision to be a document that was built by 12 people and only 12 people.
Right,
It's much
right.
larger than that.
But can we encourage others like Annette to be able to hold a committee accountable in a way where, like, if you're
Oh,
feeling
no, I just
you can drop
wondered. I
in,
mean, yeah.
you know,
I mean, I heard Atasha's struggle and I submitted comments previously online and now it makes me wonder.
So I will tell you though that the document has not changed since April. We're just tracking changes. So aside from a kind of a complete overhaul by economic development, that was at a request of the whole community, you won't see any of those changes until it comes forward in May.
Okay.
And so just know that like this same document keeps being sent out over and over again because we want to be sure that each committee, each time we do this, everyone's getting the same information and it's not changing as you go around.
Yeah.
so
Okay.
I think if I can add an off comment, Miranda. Also, Tom has told me that he did not get a link for tonight or see it. I just want to keep that just so I can tell you out loud. I saw it on my Google Calendar and had no issue, but I also texted Natasha. So I'm wondering if they did not get the invite per chance.
I may have deleted it because it was too far in advance for my brain to absorb.
But it's Tom as well. It's Tom as well.
Yeah, that may have been, I mean, they're on the invite, and you know, Tom and Natasha, but these were pushed out over a month ago. So there could have been some challenges there. But obviously, Tom, if he wants access to this recording, I can send it to him, and then he'll see this feedback in the Google Doc.
Wonderful, wonderful. I know he'd appreciate it. Excellent.
Do Miranda and Karen, do you go to all these meetings?
Yep.
Yes.
We sure do.
Oh,
That's why their screen.
Yes, bless
Yeah.
you.
That's why their screens are off, right?
Well, mine's
they're
on because
off.
my bandwidth is pretty bad up here by Winterview. And so I'll freeze if I start talking. But I actually had my
I'm
video on the
joking.
beginning. Yeah, I did have it on the beginning. I'll do it again.
No, it's fine. I'm just joking. It's so much
Karen's
easier when
she's
Oh,
eating dinner.
yeah.
Okay,
My
so,
dinner's over on the counter.
Karen or Miranda, I want to address this to you. Annette brought it up before because I just get, my brain just gets so confused, like with all these documents and the changes and how they go together and stuff at this point. So, the strategic part of this, the planning part to make all these things happen, we're not going to, that's not part of our job yet. What happens is this document gets put together, it goes before the bot, they approve it, and then the strategic part, we get involved in the strategic part. Is that how that goes?
It's really going to depend on if the Board of Trustees wants to continue with a 2030 action plan, or if they'd like to pivot to the comprehensive plan update and then use this as the guiding document for that framework. There's a concern that if we do an action plan for Envision 2030, that might conflict with a comprehensive plan, which will only cause more issues. So we kind of have to wait until we know what the Board of Trustees wants to do.
Okay, so could the action part of it, the comprehensive, since this, we spent time with this, it's laid out. Could this be, what do you call it, integrated into the comprehensive plan?
Right, that would be the point, is to take these goals and objectives and make them the framework in which the comprehensive plan is primarily built off of. But the concern is that if we do actionable steps in this document, and then we have a consultant come and put together the comprehensive plan, could there be a conflict? And so there may be benefit in just using this as the framework. Like the last Envision 2020 was not an action plan. It was just guiding statements that were used for the comprehensive plan. Yeah. So there is a sentiment that perhaps we should continue the same thing.
Okay, so with doing these objectives, they need to be kept general. So for instance, instead of saying we're going to have a shuttle that runs weekends from point A to point B, it would just say transportation will be provided for X, Y, and Z.
Correct.
Okay. So hard not to get into this.
And there are some committees who have gotten very, kind of deep in the details. And so with the feedback that they received, next week, all the subcommittees will be tasked with kind of pulling back a little bit. But again, like Annette was saying, integrating that feedback. There are some that are far too specific. And so, for example, if there's a desire to increase building heights, just say that and don't define what the height is. Or whatever that might be. That's just an example, but trying to be a bit more broad. But we'll receive a lot of feedback from the Board of Trustees, but the goal is really to tighten up the goals and objectives using the feedback received from the community. That's next week's.
Okay. In terms of the Board of Trustees, and I don't remember who's on it, but are there areas, are there subcommittees where a Board of Trustee person may need to recuse themselves for a conflict of interest?
What?
I don't think so, because this is just a visioning document.
If that were the case, with the vision statement's done incorrectly. Because it shouldn't be something that would be benefiting to one person or one developer or one business.
Yes.
It's got to be more broad than that. Yeah, it's got to be more broad than that.
I'm sorry to interject. If I do get out of here a little bit early, Tom has been texting me furiously, feeling bad about not doing this tonight. And he's wondering if I can go fill him in about a few minutes. Do you mind if I take up notes?
One quick thing.
I think we're
should
ready
we
to
have
go.
a meeting before Friday, or will you just get an invite to housing? What's the best way to proceed?
I think that this week is a little bit of short notice, but I would like to spend this week looking over those notes for a future within next week. This week.
Okay.
So just give me the information so I can digest all that goodness, and then we can take it from there. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Awesome. Okay, guys, I'm going to skedaddle and go. Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
So good night, everybody.
Thank
Night.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Oh, I don't know how to get out of here.
I'll end up kicking everyone out, so hold
There
on.
it is. I found it.